the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And joining us now is Daniel Wallach, who is a gaming law and sports betting attorney, as well as a legal analyst for The Athletic and co-host of the Conduct Detrimental podcast. And Daniel, you've been following this Brian Davis lawsuit, and I've been trying to ignore the Brian Davis everything. He's just, to me, someone who seems to want attention. But in this particular case, because I think it's genuinely hilarious, I'm going to give him attention. What is the basis of this lawsuit, to the extent that a basis of a lawsuit exists?
Well, he came into $5 billion of cash from some estate in the Philippines. He found a source of money to front his bid on the Washington Commanders, and he attempted to deposit 2 bank drafts totaling $5.1 billion. He presented it to Bank of America, and they declined it. And not only that, they closed his company's accounts. You know, they didn't just say, we're declining it, you're free to do business with us. They terminated the business relationship. So Davis, through his company, now the company, Urban Echo Energy, is the plaintiff, is the party suing. Davis is not suing, but this is Davis's, wholly owned company. This is his company. So it's almost like Davis bringing the lawsuit. So he filed a claim for conversion and a claim for replevin against Bank of America, asking the court to order Bank of America to immediately credit his accounts at Bank of America to the tune of $5.1 billion so that he can place a bid on the Commanders, because without this account balance, he has no ability to present a bona fide bid to Dan and Tanya Snyder. And without that balance being restored, he'll lose out on the opportunity to purchase the Washington Commanders. So from his vantage point, time is of the essence, because this Josh Harris, agreement is moving forward, and, time is of the essence, and he needs to bring this kind of a lawsuit to force Bank of America to make him whole to the tune of $5 billion.
Right. So what do we know about where this $5 billion came from in the first place? This is someone who came on our station and claimed he had $50 billion in the bank. How did he get $5 billion from the Philippines? Where did this money come from?
Well, the bank drafts are attached as a copy of the bank drafts are attached as exhibits to his motion for a temporary restraining order, and they bear the signature of an administrator for the estate of somebody by the name of Severino Garcia Santa Romana. Okay. Well, he's not exactly known to be a bidder for an NFL team, and probably for good reason. He's been deceased for a long time. I did a little bit of research, and this person apparently was involved with stealing gold that had been buried in tunnels and caves in the Philippines. This goes all the way back to World War II. The Japanese were the Imperial Japanese Army were burying gold throughout the Philippines. I guess they wanted to use it to finance their war effort. He found out about the location of several of these tunnels and mines and took the gold bars, or as many of them as he could take. And Ferdinand Marcos, the former president of the Philippines, was actually his attorney. So they set up these accounts, and Citibank is the repository, or was the repository of so much of the cash and gold associated, with this World War II era gold. Supposedly, it's trillions of dollars worth of gold. He had his hands. I mean, Mr. Santa Romana had probably billions of it. And no one knows the true value. No one knows whether these accounts really exist. But Brian Davis presented a check from Santa Romana's estate, a bank draft in the amount of $5.1 billion, representing an account at Citibank. And he was trying to deposit those funds. This bank draft was issued by the estate of Santa Romana to Brian Davis to make a deposit at Bank of America. And Bank of America said, we're not touching it.
Daniel Wallach is our guest. He's a legal analyst for the Athletic. Yeah, I just feel the need to reset the show here because I terrified Daniel that someone would have joined this radio show midway through and got very concerned that this sports show, this is the Hoffman Show. This is the show that we've been doing for almost a year now in this time spot. And I'm scared that they think we got taken over by some like history podcast that now plays on loop. Because how on earth is something that the story you just told related to the Washington Commanders? Like, and that is kind of the crux of this. And I'm going to distill it down to one question. Does Brian Davis think we're all stupid?
No, but he thinks that a federal judge is stupid enough to greenlight this lawsuit. And the issue is the other side of the story is going to come out very soon from Bank of America. There are probably legitimate bona fide reasons why they had concerns about the source of the funding. The NFL doesn't.
Yeah, because they came from a bank draft of a guy who's been dead. Like to me, it sounds like tell me if this is plausible or or connect the dot that I'm missing. To me, the story you just told sounds like Brian Davis learned about this guy on the internet, forged a bank draft, and tried to just essentially make up $5.1 billion, got a couple pieces of key account information, and then was like, hey, Bank of America, deposit the money, and tried to basically make Bank of America create $5.1 billion in wealth for him so that he could buy the Commanders. Am I missing something here, or is that kind of what just happened?
I don't know that had in fact happened, because what you're describing would be, sort of a federal crime, and he would
right.
be imprisoned for it. So there must be more to the story. I almost believe that this money actually exists somewhere, but that he might be a front for other people. The National Football League isn't going to want, sort of a person who's a straw man for the true beneficial owners. If you're going to be an NFL team owner, we got to know who the money man is, the money person behind the scenes is. You're describing one scenario that may very well exist. And we're going to find out in a few days, because Bank of America has been ordered, or actually the federal judge in the case entered an order today, casting doubt on Brian Davis's claims, because she said, look, you've offered no suggestion that there's any immediate irreparable harm that you're going to face, because even if Bank of America placed those funds on deposit and gave you access to $5 billion, you have not demonstrated that that event would cause Dan and Tanya Snyder to back out of their agreement with Josh Harris. And in her view, the relief that Brian Davis is seeking wouldn't change or alter the status quo. He would be in exactly the same place that he is right now, because Snyder is under no obligation to consider that offer, nor even accept it, even if it is the best or highest offer.
Right. He would never pass the NFL's bidding process, and Snyder knows that. So there's a bunch of things. Like, could Brian Davis open himself up to some kind of federal investigation here? Like, could he have just played himself?
I don't want to go there, because I don't have the facts that suggest that is a likelihood. But certainly, when an individual who's been the subject of many lawsuits and has had his sort of legal problems in the past waltzes into Bank of America and says, I have $5 billion, and the source of that money is from some estate in the Philippines, it raises red flags, and Bank of America will go through an investigation and an inquiry. And there was a 6-day period between when Davis presented this banknote or this bank draft, and then the date at which Bank of America 6 days later rejected it. So when Bank of America files its response in this lawsuit, all the missing pieces of the puzzle are going to be filled in, because right now all that we're left with is an 8-page bare bones complaint filed by Davis, along with a 7-page motion for a temporary restraining order filed in federal court. I've practiced in federal court for close to 30 years. This is one of the most deficient TRO motions I've ever seen, because it doesn't get into an extensive analysis. It doesn't explain anything about the reasons why the funds were declined. It's almost like a skeleton. And I'm surprised that the lawyer even filed it.
So Daniel Wallach, wrapping up with him, legal analyst for The Athletic and co-host of the Conduct Detrimental podcast. When are we done with Brian Davis?
Probably as early as maybe another 2 to 3 weeks. Under the court's order that was issued just an hour ago, Judge Boardman said that I'm not even going to consider this motion until you, Brian Davis, actually serve Bank of America with a copy of the lawsuit. I'm not going to issue an ex parte, order, directing them to deposit this money. I want to hear from Bank of America, and I think there's a deadline by May 26th under which Bank of America has to be served with a copy of the lawsuit. That's 2 days away. I'm relatively certain Bank of America will file a detailed written response by the end of next week, and shortly thereafter, the motion for TRO is going to be denied, and the lawsuit will be dismissed for failure to state a cause of action. Now, I don't want to get into the legal weeds here, but there's no reason why this case should have ever been filed in a Maryland federal court, because his company, Urban Echo Energy, is a Virginia company. Bank of America is incorporated in Delaware, has its principal place of business in North Carolina. None of the relevant events took place in the state of Maryland. So I think there's a venue issue here, along with an irreparable harm problem. And then on top of that, Brian Davis never registered his limited liability company, Urban Echo, as a business in the state of Maryland. And if you're an unregistered foreign corporation, you're not allowed to file a lawsuit. So, take this to the bank, not to Bank of America, but take it to the proverbial legal bank. This lawsuit will soon be dismissed within the next 3 weeks. It poses zero threat to the Josh Harris, Dan Snyder agreement. It will not have any future repercussions.
It did give us tremendous. Yeah, it did give us tremendous entertainment along the way, though. So that's nice. We got to learn about these gold tunnels.
I learned about Yamashita's gold, the connection to Ferdinand Marcos, the Canadian mafia, even to Hitler. All the major characters around
World War II history nerd stuff. I love it.
In this story. I certainly wish I will have, by the end of this case, a working command of Yamashita's gold. This is a combination. I don't know if you're old enough to remember Kelly's Heroes, the World War II film where the U.S. Army and the Nazi soldiers collaborated to steal gold that was buried in some Nazi-controlled territory. It also conjures up, it's a mad world. It's basically the search for buried treasure. And Brian Davis has a direct pipeline to somebody who claims to have that buried treasure.
Or at least he says he does. Daniel Wallach, legal analyst for The Athletic, co-host of the Conduct Detrimental podcast. Follow him on Twitter at Wallach Legal. Daniel, thank you for this. It was highly entertaining. And I'm sure that when this thing gets done, and with all the other legal issues going on around Snyder and the team that still are yet to be resolved, we will be talking soon.
I don't know. Maybe I'll leave on a high note. It doesn't get better than this.
Or just bother Lust again. Thanks, Daniel.
Anza, thanks again. Bye-bye.
This is the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.